Successfully deploying applications on SAP Business Technology Platform, BTP in short, is just the beginning. True value comes from when you can efficiently operate, maintain, and scale them. In this series, we will explore the different ways you can manage exactly that. One great way to gain efficiency is through automation. And by the end of today's session, you will know how to accelerate operational automation with SAP Automation Pilot. A very warm welcome and thank you for joining our 9th episode of our series Mastering Day 2 Operations in SAP BTP. With me, I have again Bizar Simeonov. Bizar is a product manager with 10 plus years hands-on experience in delivering multiple products for media, telco, and cloud businesses. Currently, Bizar is product manager for products within the SAP BTP DevOps portfolio, such as the SAP Alert Notification Service and SAP Automation Pilot. And with this, I would like to hand over to you, Bizar.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I'm really glad that we have our fourth session regarding the SAP Automation Pilot. So that's really an honor, and thanks for everyone who managed to join in and watch that session live. And also, just for information, that session will be recorded and available as usual on our YouTube channel. So you can explore it afterwards as well. So without further ado, I'll just start sharing my screen. Okay. So, as Tanya mentioned today, we're gonna speak about inspiring technical ops automations with SAP Automation Pilot. And so far, during the last 3 sessions, we were exploring the Automation Pilot in different flavors. So, in example, we started with the integration with a central ops platform as QualityLM. We had witnessed a live demo when it comes to the automation pilot, remediating a particular incident that was captured within our QualityLM Ops platform. Then, as a second session, we really started from scratch building a use case, an automation flow for the automation pilot. And we explored really the basics, how we can create input keys, how we can use the provided content within the automation pilot, how to set up conditions, and how to consume the outputs of those commands. So I really enjoyed that session. I hope it was also useful to all of you. And as a third session, we were exploring the automation pilot in the context of HANA Cloud, and we had the chance to see 2 different use cases when it comes to automated provisioning of ECNs for the HANA Cloud, and then as a weekly scheduled regular checks for compliance and security checks for our multiple HANA Cloud instances with the automation pilot. So that is as a context. And then that session is going to be the final session within the current series when it comes to the automation pilot. And I try to prepare for you some other use cases where the automation pilot can fit and can bring value. Because end of the day, indeed, our product, it is a multi-purpose DevOps ops support tool within BTP that helps your ops teams to accelerate and be more efficient. And as I say, multi-purpose indeed, like you can plug the automation pilot in various automation use cases when it comes to the operational layer. So now let's explore some of these. And of course, we're gonna see a demo at the end. And this time I hope that we're gonna have at least 10 minutes for questions and answers, since it is our last session within the current series. So just as a context, again, we have the automation pilot, part of BTP, And with that product, we are able to interact with resources in SAP, but also outside BTP. And we don't have any limitation. One instance of the automation pilot, it's more than enough to fit our entire ops landscape in different sub accounts, in different global accounts. Really, for the automation pilot, it's there are no any technical / legal implications to be used as a global SaaS application for your automations. Right, so we already know that it comes with low code, no code capabilities. We know that it comes with provided content, and we have a seamless integration with Cloud ALM. And today we're gonna see also the integration when it comes to the alert notification. And today also we're gonna see the AI capabilities which are incorporated into the automation pilot. And perhaps here is the right place to mention that those AI capabilities, they're not removing the need of someone a person to develop the ops automation. Rather, they really boost the efficiency and they help us to build those automation faster and better. But over again, just make sure that you check and you test your automations if you use the AI capabilities before using those automations on production landscape and productive use cases. So, right, I said that it tackles the DevOps, the portfolio and the operational portfolio, but there might be different personas that are using the automation pilot. So we have a citizen developer, professional developer, IT administrator, and SRE persona that really they benefit mainly from our product. At that session also, during the series also we had the chance to check 2 sessions related to the Terraform provider for SAP BTP. I really enjoyed this. And also we have cloud integration automation service as part of the BTP portfolio. And sometimes there are questions how the automation pilot fits and in which use cases to which tool to be used. So also as a closing session, it is important to understand that. So this is why we have that slide over here. We try to outline, as you see with the dark blue, the core domain of each of those tools, because indeed they tackle the automations, but their focus it's a different one. So as you might be guessing, the Terraform provider for SAP BTP, it's really powerful tool for infrastructure provisioning and management. And especially if you want to go with the infrastructure as a code solution, and you're capable to maintain the needed infrastructure to run Terraform in a long term to manage your landscape in BTP, that's the tool to go with. Then the automation pilot main domain, it is the application operations and automations. And when I say application operation, of course, that's application and DB operations and automations. And we're gonna see also, we have some use cases where the automation pilot, it is used and it can be used for provisioning of resources in BTP, and that's fine, especially when it comes to the initial provisioning of resources. It's quite helpful. You can automate provisioning of sub-accounts. You can create users, assign roles, entitle the needed services and applications in BTP. But when it goes to a long-term management of that infrastructure, then the automation pilot, it is not the tool to go with, but rather you should look into the Terraform provider for SAP BTP. And last but not least, the cloud integration and automation service, main focus, it is to bring predefined scenarios within your SAP landscape when it comes to the technical integration of different SAP cloud and on-premise solutions. So here we speak about how to build and how to connect different solutions within your SAP landscape. So, yeah, that's the automation flow. We know that, and that's the automation flow, how it looks like within the automation pilot itself. It is visually represented. And today, of course, we're gonna extend our flow that we had created during the session 2 within the automation pilot series. Also today, we're gonna look into the the scheduled execution of automations. So within our product, we have a built-in scheduler, and it's quite powerful. So within that scheduler, we can achieve when exactly an automation to be scheduled, and it might be within a specific day or a specific period of time, which can be a recurrent one. So that's yet another capability. And as you might be guessing, that's yet another option which will allow you to extend the usage of Automation Pilot within your use cases. And of course, we have the chance to see real time the execution of the automation flow through our UI. So having said that, we had seen different capabilities of the automation pilot as well during that overview. But let's explore some of the use cases. So we have the option for the automation pilot, a command in the automation pilot to be triggered. So it might be an event trigger automation. So in example, if you use CloudLM, actually we had seen that during the first session within the automation pilot. Then if you remember, guys, like just by one click, it was possible the CloudLM to trigger a specific command in the automation pilot. And of course, that can be executed fully automatically by the CloudLM. Same approach, it might be undertaken by the alert notification service. Also today, we're gonna see how potentially you could achieve that. So in example, if you use the alert notification in BTP to detect certain events and alerts. So in example, natively, the alert notification can detect if an application, if even a process in an application gets crashed, and then the alert notification can trigger Automation Pilot automatically, saying, hey, that application had crashed, go and restart it, or go and try to increase the memory, whatever the expected useful flow it is. Same approach can be undertaken for databases, like the alert notification can detect many events. You can consult the help documentation of the alert notification, and each time when such a event gets detected, you can configure a particular command in the automation pilot to be triggered. And same approach, it might be undertaken by other outside SAP, external SAP products such as Dynatrace, Splunk, and pretty much any custom application or a solution that support webhooks can trigger a command in the automation pilot, a specific command in the automation pilot. Also, it is possible to pass certain parameters. Of course, certain the needed level of authentication and authorization it's needed, but in the automation pilot that it's supported, so you can create service accounts directly within your automation pilot, and then those service accounts can be used by those third-party solutions. Then during today's demo, we are also gonna see the way around. The automation pilot will be ingesting an event towards the alert notification service, which from its side, it can create a Jira ticket. Also, the automation pilot can create a Jira ticket. We had seen that during the second session. How that use case it is useful? Well, as you might be guessing, like if I go one step back, here the alert notification triggers an automation in example, then the automation pilot remediate that situation in the expected manner. And then why not the automation pilot getting back a response to the alert notification or to the other service, to any other solution. And also within the current use case, today's demo use case, we're gonna see how the automation pilot will be performing certain API checks, validating whether or not the API of our CAP application from our previous demo, it is functioning correctly. Why that it's important? Well, the alert notification service can detect when a process gets crashed, when the application gets crashed, but actually the alert notification service cannot detect whether or not the application and the API of that application functions in a way that we expect to be functioning. That it's doable by using an automation pilot. And an example, we can call a particular API and we can evaluate the response of that API and whether or not it meets certain criteria. Then that's gonna be resulting in our statement that the application and the API functions correctly. If that API checks fails, then the automation pilot can notify the alert notification with a message, hey, that application, it is functioning, but the API response was wrong. See what the response was. And then the alert notification in our use case can do many things, but in our demo use case, it's gonna be sending an email directly into our inbox. And when I say the alert notification can do many things, of course, the alert notification on top of that can send instant messages into Microsoft Teams, Slack. It can create ServiceNow ticket, Jira ticket as well. And also you can use a webhook into the alert notification in case you want to create an incident into a custom ticketing system. Right. So the other use case of the automation pilot, it is pretty much the same as the one that I had described, but instead of the alert notification service, as you see here, then we sent an event to the alert notification, and then the alert notification service can create an incident ticket as well. So in that use case, in example, the automation pilot can report the output directly to Dynatrace if that's needed. And furthermore, the automation pilot can be creating the incident ticket directly into Jira and ServiceNow. And in this use case, we will be using the alert notification service just as an email engine, let me put that way, on top of the automation pilot. Right. So moving forward, then yet another use case. It is the mass scale automations. And if we remember last time, previous session, we had witnessed the automation pilot interacting with various HANA Cloud instances. So pretty much the same approach, it might be applied for the Cloud Foundry applications or any type of applications. And it is quite suitable for the mass scale automations. So in example, if you would like to patch various databases, and really that's a time-consuming effort. If you, let's say you have 5 or 10 instances of HANA Cloud databases, and then you need to make sure that the available patches are applied really on time. Then you need someone from your team to process all of these databases and to manually click by one to start to look into what exactly had happened and so on. Then that use case can be fully automated with the automation pilot. So you can actually that command it is inspired by real customer who had automated the patching of the HANA Cloud databases completely by the automation pilot. And actually that command is also available in our public GitHub repository as a outsourced, fully functional ops automation. So what exactly the command it does? It processes on a daily basis your multiple HANA Cloud databases one by one. And then the automation pilot checks whether or not there's an available patch version for your HANA Cloud. And if yes, then it starts the automated patching. So another use case, in example, it is for Cloud Foundry applications where we have some customers, some teams that which are looking for automated stopping of those applications for their dev environment outside working hours. So in example, within the automation pilot, they had built some automations which it's actually a scheduled automation, which end of the working day, it goes and it processes and it stops automatically the Cloud Foundry applications on the dev environment. 6 p.m., all of those applications are stopped. Of course, that's also an important to be noted that in case your dev team for some reason needs to work after 6 p.m., let's say, then they need to go and manually start that application, or they can disable the automation in the automation pilot. So they should remember about that. And so on and so on. So with the mass scale automations, you have really various options. And in terms of scalability, do not be afraid to use the automation pilot at the scale. Internally, our SAP internal team had used the automation pilot to migrate to the cloud hundreds and thousands of databases at the same time. So it is used internally for that use case, and yeah, we didn't notice any issue in terms of performance and scalability so far with our product. Moving forward, right. So this one, it's qualification and regression tests. So yeah, well, that's an interesting use case because internally, and not only internally, but that what you see here, those are screenshots from our internal tests. So internally, we use the automation pilot to test the automation pilot APIs. And once we have a new version of the automation pilot, of course, we have ready to use tests, which after each release are triggered automatically, and then the automation pilot performs those checks. And we are looking into an automated API verification, making sure that the new version of our SaaS application does not break core functionality, and the API and the tests which are configured for that API, they're functioning correctly. Also, we can use that as a scheduled testing. So within the use case that we're gonna see, I told you that we're gonna be checking the API of our application. So in our, we also have customers which were explaining different use cases where their end customers are actually the users of the applications are detecting that for some reason the application is not working, and they wanted to make a solution, to find a solution which it's validating automatically that the API of the application is functioning correctly. And this is why we had prepared some commands within the automation pilot, which are executed once per hour, which are validating that the API of that application really is functioning correctly. So that's yet another use case. And of course, at the end of those checks, the automation pilot can ingest the needed data in the alert notification or into an email, into a Jira ticket. It really depends on your particular use case. So you can be notified what exactly had happened as part of those automated regression tests. So yeah, provisioning, next use case, provisioning of BTP resources. And as I said, that use case, it's quite useful for initial provisioning of resources on BTP. For long-term management, we have the Terraform provider for BTP. So yeah, various customers, they use the automation pilot to provision different type of resources on BTP and in the needed environment to configure those in the way how they expect to be. And then just to give you some example for a potential inspiration from your side. So we have a use case where it's a big company and they have many dev teams and they have a catalog of about resources in BTP which are expected to be provisioned. And they have in that catalog, they had set up different type of entitlements. So let's say for the dev environment, and if you want to develop a CAP application on your dev environment, you need Business Application Studio, maybe you need HANA Cloud, CTMS, Alert Notification, and Cloud Foundry Runtime, which has two entitlements for the runtime itself. And then they had exposed that as a catalog in ServiceNow. And let's say if you want to build whatever, if you want to let's say to build if you want to build another type of application, let's say, then you have a second option where instead of one database, maybe you're gonna get two databases and you're gonna get more Cloud Foundry runtime and you're gonna get another set of services and so on and so on. So depending on the user who had picked the expected delivery for the initial provisioning of resources, then a particular command in the automation pilot has been triggered to start the provisioning of those resources. So let's say I'm the persona, the developer, I go to that catalog, I pick up the very simple CAP environment that it's needed for my development, then automatically or semi-automatically, because we also have an option for the administrator of that landscape to say, yes, I confirm that request, and only then that request to trigger the needed automation in the automation pilot. So we can start provisioning the environment with the right set of configuration. And when I say triggering of that, so I'll go to this use case. So pretty much here, if we have the ServiceNow as an event-driven automation, once the request for that environment gets accepted and confirmed by the IT administrator here, only then the command we actually then the call towards the automation pilot will be made, and the command from the automation pilot to start provisioning those resources will be kicked off. So yeah, another use case, it is the ops remediation triggered by SAP Cloud LM. I wouldn't spend time here, just if someone is joining today's session and had missed the very first session for the automation pilot within the series, please check into the series, and over there we had explained in greater details that use case, how Cloud LM can collect metrics and events for our resource in BTP and not only. And then based on the configuration from Cloud LM, you can trigger manually or automatically the expected remediation for that incident or alert using the automation pilot. Right. So a very recent use case incorporating S/4HANA and Cloud LM. So Cloud LM collects a lot of data for your S/4HANA system. And that data, of course, it is available using the API, using the UI of the Cloud LM, but also it is available using the Cloud LM API. And it's really interesting use case in case you want to evaluate that data that is collected for your S/4HANA system with the help of the automation pilot. And why? Because it's a big amount of data as well, and also using AI core service, which is part of BTP, we were able real time to evaluate and to give some remediation to our customers with the automation pilot and the AI core service based on that data that has been collected. And then as well, you can consider the expected remediation data for the automation from the automation pilot towards your S/4HANA systems. Just one disclaimer here. As of now, the possible remediations towards those S/4HANA systems which are supported by the automation pilot are when it comes to certain calls towards exposed old data endpoints. We don't have other interfaces as of now which are supported in the context of S/4HANA system in the automation pilot. And also a hint, in case you use S/4HANA on-prem, the automation pilot can connect to those S/4HANA systems through the cloud connector. So that's fully functional use case, and we can help with the needed configuration of the cloud connector as well. So in case you're interested into that or other use cases for S/4HANA and the automation pilot, do not hesitate to reach out to me and at the comment. Right. Speaking about S/4HANA and cloud connectors, the automation pilot also it supports Kubernetes operators. So in case you have a Kubernetes cluster, we have an option so that the automation pilot can securely connect and operate within your Kubernetes cluster. That was an addition to the automation pilot. It is called Automation Pilot Kubernetes Operator that can be installed and set up at your own Kubernetes cluster, and through which we can, from Automation Pilot, can interact with your Kubernetes cluster in a safe way. So also you can check out the operator and it is available and you can understand what exactly it does. But in a nutshell, it is a secure protocol towards the automation pilot. So the automation pilot can interact with that operator, and then the operator can communicate within your Kubernetes cluster as well. But also a feedback, that's a use case that we are looking for more and more adoption. As of now, it is not widely used, as you might be guessing. But it is there, it exists, and if you have interest towards that, let me know as well. Right. So I had mentioned the command generation assistant within the automation pilot. And having said that, let's look into what exactly it does. So within the automation pilot, we have low code, no code experience, but wouldn't be nice if we simply specify in a simple way what exactly we would like to achieve. So instead of us going through the different catalogs and finding out the exact command and placing it here and then modifying a bit, then we would like to, the ultimate goal when it comes to the command generation, it is that we would like to have a UI where we can place in a simple text what exactly we would like to get as an automation. And then the GenAI would be generating that for us. And that will be resulting in an automation flow. So yeah, that's achievable with the GenAI assistant, which is incorporated into the automation pilot. It's not needed to provision other services and to integrate the automation pilot with other products. It's part of the automation pilot. Of course, by default, it is not enabled. So you need to accept the terms and conditions of the GenAI functionality, which is part of the automation pilot. It is a toggle button. I can show you just in a couple of minutes where exactly it is. All right. And also a disclaimer here, that feature, it is available for the standard plan of the automation pilot. And the standard plan, it is not free. So you need to have the needed licensing. So you need to have an enterprise BTP global account and license itself. And then you can purchase the SAP Automation Pilot standard plan. It's a pay-as-you-go licensing model. So you pay just for the amount of usage that you consume. But also when it comes to the GenAI, so on a monthly basis, you have 50 free interactions of GenAI usage. So for giving a try of the GenAI for the 50 interactions, that's going to be free for you. Right. And that's how exactly it looks like. So here we place the description of the GenAI, and as an output, we expect that we get the automation flow. But also you can use the GenAI to extend an automation that it's already existing. And we're gonna check it out how that works today. Right, so that's just an example. I keep that one here. So it can be used for you as a reference use case. So that's a very basic example where we can, actually what you see here, that's the prompt. I want a command that, and here we have the prompt that we had specified. So it's just an example. You can give any type of prompts that you'd like, and then the GenAI will be generating the automation flow. But in that specific prompt, we are showcasing a use case where with the GenAI, we are checking an endpoint of an application. We are looking for the database, whether or not it is functioning correctly, and then we are capturing that into a Jira ticket. Hint, the automation pilot cannot the GenAI in the automation pilot cannot figure it out the input keys. Of course, you need to maintain those input keys within the input entitlements. For this, check out the second session for the automation pilot that we did within that series in the past. So, yeah, success stories. That's a success story that was inspired by a real customer for the HANA Cloud databases updates and maintenance. So I already had mentioned that. And those are some quotes. So I will move forward. I wouldn't spend time now. We have a public blog post actually regarding the other success stories. It is from Sierra Digital. That's an SAP partner. So these guys, they had used the automation pilot for a use case which is related to the S/4HANA migration journey, making sure that the connection between in their hybrid landscape between the BTP and the on-prem landscape, it is functioning correctly. So they fully automated that process that was making them trouble back in the time. We have another use case from a global healthcare company, which has been used the automation pilot for various Cloud Foundry applications which are running on BTP. And that was in addition to an integration with Cloud LM. So yeah, you can see really some of those success stories for the automation pilot. And yeah, I already have mentioned that we have the standard plan, but also we have a trial plan and completely free, but with certain limitations. So really give it a try and do not hesitate. And last but not least, You can explore the SAP further resources within the Discovery Center, Help Portal. We have a community, plenty of resources within the SAP community. So that's also valid and useful for further exploration. Really some end-to-end automation flows which are inspired by either internal or external SAP ops teams are made publicly available within our Automation Pilot sample repository in GitHub. So anytime that you can check out those examples. And in case you have any questions regarding any of those use cases or setting it up for a custom use case, another use case that you didn't see so far, do not hesitate to contact us. We are very, very open. And when I say we, that's me as a product manager and our entire Automation Pilot dev team. So we are very open to step in and help customers tweaking the Automation Pilot in a way that it fits best their needs. So that was the last slide and the last inspirational slide that I had for today's session. So then we have 10 minutes for showing the Automation Pilot and an extra step of the Automation Pilot towards our automation flow that we started during our second session. So if you remember at that point, I was explaining that we have a bookshop backend and front-end facing a CAP application that was deployed on my BTP sub-account. That's the bookshop. And at that point, pretty much like what we did, it was that from Automation Pilot perspective, we were checking whether or not the application was working, was running, and if not, we were restarting that application. But let's look into another potential use case. So that's the UI of the backend of my application. So that's the administration of those books. And here, like we can interact with some of these. And really, that's not the focus of today's session, right? So now we are looking into, I'm just browsing to simulate certain walks as that's gonna be needed on a later stage of that demo. Also, what is important for today's demo is that we have an endpoint. So if I go and I access this admin/books, so I can find out the metadata of some of these books. And I'll be using that metadata as part of my regression tests, because here I have configured an API, a test API, admin/books, that is going to be returning some test data, which by processing that API response, I can find out whether or not the API for administrating those books, it is functioning correctly, or at all, whether or not that API works at all. One option, it is to look whether or not the response of calling that API it is equal to 200. But in that use case, maybe the application endpoint will be returning that. But what if my test data it is broken, or what if the API for some reason it is does not return the expected value as part of my regression tests. So this is why I would like to validate the value within the API response. And then without further ado, I'll be going back to actually my Automation Pilot itself. So what I did, if you remember in the previous lecture, we had that automation command where we were looking for the state and the events. And also now I had extended that by looking into the logs, but the addition that we see, it is check application executor. So here I had used a very simple, I'll zoom in, so I'll make that bigger. I had used the provided content, which is the HTTP request. That command, we already had explored that in the past, and I had defined the method which is get, and here it is our URL, which is the API endpoint we were looking at just a minute ago. So that executor will be fetching the value which is within the API. But then I need to evaluate what it's whether or not that API returns the expected value. So this is why a good, at least good experience to me, it is to use a void command. Within that void command, and why I had used that void command is because I need to prepare a JQ expression. So I'll zoom in here. So pretty much my expression here is that I will be looking for the check up output body. So that's the body that the HTTP request will return. And then I'll filter to the object with ID 201. And my expectation is that the title for that ID, which it's over again this one. So I'm filtering for this ID, and then I'll be looking for the title, whether or not that matches. And my expectation is that that value will be exactly this one. And if that's the case, everything is fine. However, if that's not the case, I can configure, I can add yet another executor, which is send ANS event. So that is the command that I had used. And I will open that command here. All right. Send ANS, that's the alert notification service event. So here I can find out what input keys I need to provide in order to send a custom event towards the alert notification service. And within the body, I had specified that the app is not functioning correctly as the API check had failed. And I also real-time can provide the output message from the filter data. So I'll be specifying what exactly had failed, what was the message, the output from the validation of the API endpoint. And yeah, obviously here I'll be sending that event towards the alert notification service. Here, restarting of the application, just bear with me. The restarting of the application will be executed only if the state it is not running. So as you see, now within one automation flow, I'm validating whether or not the application it is functioning correctly on a Cloud Foundry level. So I check for the events, I check for the state, and if everything is fine, then I also proceed further with the check of the API endpoints. Only if the API endpoints fails, I'll be notifying the alert notification. If the application is not functioning correctly on a Cloud Foundry level, only then I'll be restarting the application. And only then I will be creating the Jira ticket. So here I'll be triggering that command right away. So now the application API, it is functioning correctly. So the command will pass, right? And if I look into, sorry, okay, it is still working. See, now it is completed. So if I look into the outputs, so I see that the application, it is running. I see the application body that actually that's the check app body. That is the response that I get from my call towards the API endpoint. I see the application status, it's 200. And what is more important here, I see the filter data. So that's exactly what I was looking for. ID 201, it is equal to that title. And actually, we did not restart the application because the state was at the one that we were expecting to be. As you might be guessing here as well, you had seen the Jira ticket that has been created. Just bear with me. So that's the Jira ticket, 5322. And if I access that, I can see that an incident has been created, but I see that the application status, it started. That's strange, isn't it? Also, I see here the events that have been collected, and I also see the recent app walks that also have been collected. So that it's expected behavior, but as I mentioned, my expectation was that that Jira ticket will be created only if the application is not functioning correctly, it's not started. So actually I did that on purpose. I wanted to show to you the options to set conditions as well to whether or not previous executor has been triggered. So if I go back to the create Jira ticket here, right? And if I look into the condition, I see that the condition now, it is set, create Jira ticket, only that that create Jira ticket executor, that will be processed only if the restart app, it is false. And that's exactly how it was the case. So here, I can set that if that is true, only then the Jira ticket, it is expected to be created. And here at Jira command, you see that now I have also specified, I have used the previous executor, create Jira ticket executed, set to true, and only then a command will be created. And actually here I can now copy, I can show you that I'll be copying the previous state as well. Create Jira ticket executed equals to true. Right. So in example now, if I trigger absolutely the very same command, all right, you see that that was much faster because we did not create the Jira ticket, because the application was in the right state, it wasn't, it was running, and we processed the right conditions, and we had the right conditions to do not create the Jira ticket. So now I will be faking the API response, and I will be simulating a situation where the API response, it is not working. So the easiest one, it is this one. So here I will be just changing the ID. So instead of 201, that will be 202. And absolutely the same thing I'll be doing within the condition which is set for the alert notification service. (202). So I'll be triggering that command. Right? And now we're going to process absolutely the same flow. We're going to process the API endpoint. We're going to find out within the automation pilot that the API endpoint, it is functioning. It returns a response. The status is 200, but actually the check in that endpoint, it is not the correct one. And if I open my email here, we can see real time an instant message that an instant email that has been delivered to my inbox by the alert notification service with all the details. So I know the landscape of the application. Actually, I had modified the app title, the email title to be real time, dynamically ingested by the automation pilot. So that's the application name. I see the landscape details, resource details, event details, and also I see that the app it's not functioning correctly. And also I see a hyperlink here. So by clicking on that hyperlink, I will be redirected directly to the alert notification service in case I would like to find out what was the exact action item within the alert notification that triggered that instant email to my inbox here. So yeah, let's see. Okay, it takes some time. Actually, that's the UI of the alert notification service within the BTP cockpit. And here, pretty much, yeah, the expectation is that, yeah, I'll see the exact action that has been configured in the alert notification service. So, yeah, that's the action that I had configured. So an email, it's sent directly to BSER. And if I go to the alert notification, so that it's the subscription that I had built. So I'll click here so you also can look into that subscription in case you want to create a similar one. So here I had filtered the event based on the event type, failed API check, and the event type, it is fed directly by the automation pilot. And I have mapped the matching condition to unsigned action, which is the email. And as I mentioned, the event type, it comes directly from the automation pilot. So if I go back to the alert notification service event, which is that one. Then event type, yeah, you see, I have used that one in order to filter out the events. So the scheduled execution, that command, it's quite useful when it goes to the scheduled execution. So it's very simple. You simply click on the scheduled execution here. You click on the schedule. Then yeah, we can find the exact command, which is this one. I can click on the next tab. So here I can specify which parameters to be used, but I will be using the ones which are already available within the command. And now here within the schedule tab, I can specify how frequently to be executed. So I can specify that, in example, that can be run hourly. And if I want to be executed each 5 minutes, actually the 5 minutes is the minimum threshold for the scheduled execution. I can click all of these. In example, if I want to be clicked to be triggered once per hour, twice per hour, I can go with that setup. So that means that it's gonna be triggered on the 30th and the 50th, 55 minute each hour. I click finalize, and then yeah, that command, it is already scheduled and we will be triggered automatically. So that's the end of today's demo. In case, Tanya, there are any questions?
Actually, we don't have any questions so far. So I would like to invite all people looking at this video. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments area underneath this video, and Beezer will definitely answer all your questions. And so maybe you want to unshare, Beezer?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I would like to thank you so much for your excellent deep dive into the SAP Automation Pilot. It was really excellent. And I would like to thank all attendees for joining us today. I hope you got a lot of value from the session. And I look forward to seeing you again in June for our next sessions from this series. Have a great day. Have a great evening, depending on where you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.